I felt as an artist excited and ready to produce a show, kind of a grown-up show is what I would say it was, like something that didn't fit in at a festival, that you could actually have a fully realized set design, that could be a 2-act play. And I was like, I just really wanted to do a show that could demonstrate to the community what I'm capable of as an artist, and also create really meaningful opportunities for other artists in the community to work with me and to be able to pay them real industry standard. And I was like, I'm ready to do this, but how? I came across the play Corpus by Dara Title, and that was before I actually knew Dara. I read the script in the issue of Canadian Theatre Review that was focused on Jewish Canadian plays. And I read the script and was like, oh my God, I love this play. I want to do this play. I'm ready to do this play somehow. How do I do this? And so I found Dara on Facebook. I also found out from her bio that she lived in Ottawa. And I was like, what? There's a playwright in Ottawa, a Jewish playwright who's interested in all the same things I am, and I don't know her? Where is she? So I found her. I wrote her and I said, I love your play. I was looking for a collaborator for the second round of Subdivision. And so rather than jump right into saying, hey, can I do Corpus? I asked her if she would like to collaborate on a piece for Subdivision. After that went well, I was like, okay, Dara, how would you feel about me doing Corpus? And she was excited and said, go for it. But then still I felt like, how do you do it? Where do you do a show? Like, I wanted to do it in alley configuration, so I needed a flexible black box. I needed 2 projectors because there's a whole bunch of online interactions, kind of like Zoom, that I needed to convey. Yeah, it just seemed impossible. I couldn't do it. I couldn't afford to rent the Gladstone, and it wouldn't fit there anyway. So I knew Arts Court was the right place for it. I just knew it was like really challenging to figure out how to produce there on your own. At the time, Sean Green was here in town, and we were talking about small companies and or independent artists needed to have a way to collaborate, to share resources, to be able to access a larger venue. How could we do that? And we reached out to Kevin Waghorn at Fringe to say, like, how can we access this venue? What can we do? And basically, in conversations with each of them, we came up with this idea for a series that would be 4 independent producers that are able to do shows that are bigger than they could do on their own. Bigger can be sort of anything. We wanted to have a chance for independent artists to show that they're ready to be able to work at somewhere like GCTC, because how do you ever expect to move to the next step in your career if you can't demonstrate you're ready to do it? So it was, of course, all self-serving, because it was where I was at in my career and what I needed, but also because I knew I needed it and I could identify that other artists were like me in Ottawa, I also saw that it was a gap for the community. And Corpus was our first pilot production. We did it before the first main stage series. We did just that one show that year. I shifted my focus to being an artistic director and a curator and trying to figure out how to build the organization rather than it being a place for me to produce my work. I was really excited to have the opportunity to provide that space for other artists and then gain other skills for myself. I had done that big show. I sort of showed what I could do as a director. And I was like, okay, hopefully that works. I just really care about this community, and I wanted to see my friends having opportunities to stay here and not feel like they all need to go to Toronto to be able to take the next step in their career. So how do we make this a scene that's really thriving? Well, and on the question of getting paid, when I posted the auditions for Corpus on the Equity Drive, you wouldn't believe how many submissions we got from both Ottawa and all over the province. And the same thing happened with when we did another Dara show with Omnibus Bill. We also did public auditions that way over the E-Drive. People are desperate to work. People are super talented, but people need to be paid for their work. If you can actually pay someone the industry standard for the number of weeks it takes to put on a big show, then you'll have a better show, because they don't have to divide their focus between that and 5 other jobs. They can actually do the work really thoroughly, and they feel that they're being acknowledged for the work, which is professional. And so I just think that's so important to me. And I went into personal debt on Corpus. Luckily now, with the framework of tactics, I would have to look at the budget and do the math to know for sure. But what we offer artists from tactics as in-kind support in terms of the venue rental and the technician and all that stuff, that might have made the difference, and I wouldn't have had to go into personal debt. But not everyone can do that. You know, I'm very lucky that I live in a house where my rent is really affordable. and that I don't have student debt, and luckily I haven't had to call on my mom for support, but if I needed to, I could. And that's really crappy that I just happen to have certain privileges that made it possible for me to take personal risk and to put it on a line of credit and then do a big show. Not everybody can do that, and it's maybe not a good idea. It was worth it in my mind. I paid down that line of credit actually way faster than you would have thought. It was an investment in my career, but I think we need organizations that are making investments in the community and in the careers of all the new and emerging artists, rather than expecting them to be able to put forth that investment.
How do you feel about getting this opportunity and then moving right when we incorporated?
It's funny. It feels kind of like it was meant to happen this way. I couldn't have left before we incorporated because I think the organization would have been too hard to find stability to make it survive the transition. Even though I applied for other jobs along the way when they looked interesting, I feel like it made sense that I didn't get them because I wasn't really ready for them yet, because I wasn't ready to leave tactics.
But it is such a specific timing for all three of us, for you, me, and Rebecca, for this to be happening. It's like it almost feels like meant to be.
Yeah, it does. I mean, like I said, I really feel like Lunchbox is the right job of of all the artistic director jobs I've applied for. It is the best fit. But also this timing is the best timing. As much as I tried really hard to get those other jobs sooner.
So there is something also kind of important that I was there for more than just one season. Like if I had joined this year and just seen just a pandemic, but I've been there for 2 years now. It makes me feel a bit more like continuity into this. And I remember all the times that you would very funnily be like, "One day you can take it," and I would be like, you directed in the Gladstone. You also did internships, and you directed at GCTC. How does that fit in your career as an indie director?
When I finished my MFA, I felt like, okay, sure, I have these letters next to my name, but I'm still learning. And so pretty soon after that, I did One Yellow Rabbit Summer Lab Intensive in Calgary. I started applying to things like the Director's Lab, and I applied to the Michael Langham Workshop for Classical Direction at the Stratford Festival. I applied multiple times for that. I finally got in 2015, and I finished the MFA in 2010, so it took a few years. I applied for a Metcalf internship at GCTC with Lizanne Johnson, the previous artistic director, for her last year, and didn't get it. And then when Eric came in, I applied again, and then I did get it. I don't know if it's just that I'm stubborn, that I just keep applying for things because I don't know, I just want to do them, and so I'm not going to give up. But I feel like you're never done learning. And even though I have now directed twice at GCTC, and even though I'm going to this exciting new grown-up job position at Lunchbox, I was really happy this year to do the Director's Lab North, and the last 2 years to do the Director's Labs in Lincoln Center in New York. Even though I'm not really as much an emerging director anymore, I just think that opportunity to connect with colleagues at similar stages in their career, and some were more recently out of school and some were much farther along. I think that's so important as an artist, to help you fill your own creative well, to go to those different sources and drink some water from different people. We have to put out so much energy as theater artists, and especially as a director, as someone leading the room. You're just by the end of some processes, I feel like I'm just sucked dry, because I'm just focusing so much and trying to watch everything that everyone's doing and listen as hard as I can. And even if I'm the one who's sitting still, I'm not on stage. Well, I'm not usually sitting still, but I'm not on stage. It's still so much energy outward that I find it's been so important to me to go to those other places and just take in a little bit and exchange a little bit. And I hope that Tactics is a place where we can do that within our community. And that's part of what led to the Green Room series and some of those Green Room series workshops that we've had, where we have a chance to really interact with other members of the community and talk about where we're at in our careers and what our goals are. I think it's just, to me, it's always been really important to be really focused on sort of have three kind of levels of focus: my own career and the things that I'm doing, my community, what everybody else is doing, what we can learn from each other. And then the bigger community that I don't even know if I really belong in because it's big and global and whatever. But guess what? We all belong in it. And if you show up, people want to hear from you, you know? And that's what I found in New York. That's what I found in Spain when I went to the International Theatre Institute Congress. You know, like people want to, everyone wants this. Everyone wants to connect. Everyone wants to share. Everyone wants to learn.
The first time we met, I had just moved into Ottawa. I was into the MFA, and there was a directors playwrights meeting, and you were one of the directors there. One of the few female directors there. And I came in from a completely different culture, and I was really scared if what I knew of what theater was supposed to work like, how a production was supposed to work like, was the same as here or how different it was. I've never been in a rehearsal in North America. What is that? Is it the same? I have the feeling that everywhere is the same, but it might not be. And I asked if anyone can let me just be in a rehearsal once so I can see what this is. And you're the only person that said, yes, come along. And it's so meaningful about what you believe. And I wonder if it's also of what you experienced.
I feel very lucky that I'm sort of coming into this stage of my career now. I feel like a lot of women before me have done a lot of amazing work to clear some of the obstacles that used to be there, or that used to be there everywhere, and now they're not everywhere. Now there's some good paths. And also, and I shouldn't say only women directors, but also other really great ally male directors and artistic directors have also helped clear those barriers as well. Yeah, so I feel very lucky to be here now. I think that I've had several opportunities to sit in other people's rehearsals. And, you know, when I was doing the MFA here at Ottawa U, Peter Hinton basically said, just come anytime. You know, he just was like, you're across the street, come anytime. And he let me intern with him on both Christmas Carol and Mother Courage. And then after I finished my MFA, he also said, and if you ever need to want to see a show, like just get a ticket, like we'll get you a ticket. You can always come. There's room in the theater. There's no reason for you to be paying for a ticket as an emerging director, you know, like just come. There was that demonstration of just like, welcome, just be there. And when I was assisting in Stratford, of course, I got to be in rehearsals with Anthony and with Wayne, with the two directors that I assisted. But there was also a sense that you could drop in on anyone, not unannounced. It was definitely email their stage manager and ask permission. But they said to all of us, all the assistant directors, like, if you want to see Donna Fiore's rehearsal, yes, come in. You know, and so that was one that was really great to see. And of course, I've made an effort to like go to the women directors rehearsals to see their rehearsal halls running. But I think that it's a bit vulnerable as a director to let people come into your work, especially if you don't know exactly what you're going to be doing that day, or you know, whatever. But it's been really important to me to be able to see those role models working. And even if I don't work in the same way or learn a practical tool I'm going to take or any of those things, just the fact that they're there, that representation matters and gave me confidence in myself. I still deal with imposter syndrome all the time, but mostly confidence in myself. And being able to, excuse me. And Lizanne too brought me in as an assistant when we didn't get that grant. She still brought me in to work with her on that show. I just don't know why I wouldn't say yes if someone asked. I feel like I need to do a little bit more inviting. I should probably like put more, but I also feel a little bit like, what do people want to learn from me? I barely know anything. So it's like weird to be like, hey, if anyone wants to sit in on my rehearsal, I'm like, well, you know, I wouldn't put it out there, but maybe I should. But if someone asks, I just can't imagine not saying yes. You know, like come in, come see, come, you know, and especially in your context, not knowing, you know, what would be similar and what would be different. Like, how else are you going to find out? We are in a craft where that's how you learn. You know, you learn by doing and you learn by observing, and hopefully a good combination of both. But if you don't ever have a chance, how will you? And then at the same time, because we're in a shifting time where more and more women are getting these opportunities, I think it's really important for us to speak up and create more opportunities for each other.
Tell us a bit about Lunchbox and about your new job.
Lunchbox Theatre is in Calgary. It's been around for 47 years. And it was originally conceived, I think, or my understanding is, to do sort of to serve an office worker kind of corporate audience in downtown Calgary, because they did lunchtime one act plays and musicals. But at lunch, an office worker could go down, bring their little brown bag lunch or buy lunch there, and sit and watch a play on their lunch break. I think the demographics, as I understand it, have really changed in Calgary, and the work culture has changed everywhere, especially with the pandemic. It's changed again, but things have evolved in that amount of time. So I'm excited to get there and see what kind of audiences we can still serve with lunchtime one act shows, because that is the DNA of the company, and I'm really excited about that. I think that one act plays and musicals are a little bit sidelined sometimes as, like, fringy or whatever, but I think that just like a good punchy short story, being able, or a novella, being able to convey a human experience and a human story in a shorter time frame can be really powerful. And we're a television watching culture now, so that's kind of our attention span anyway. So like the hour-long TV drama or comedy is actually like kind of our favorite thing, so keeping that alive in the theater, that's fine. So I'm really excited to get more focused on the one act form. With lunchtime, I think there's some really cool opportunities for access for audiences where maybe we can still serve a corporate audience, but I want to get in there and see about special days where we have childcare offered for, caregivers who have kids and can't get to the theater at night because their kids have a 7 o'clock bedtime. How are you going to go see a 7:30 and 8 o'clock show? But you could come at noon, or people with disabilities that they might find it really difficult to get downtown for an evening show. People from certain community groups, students, seniors. I think that lunchtime is like, there's some really exciting opportunities, as well as hopefully still the corporate audience, if they want to come take that lunch break. I think that's delightful. I think coming back into the theater and being able to gather again after this pandemic, I will probably shift my aesthetic a little bit, at least for some time. I still want to do socially relevant and provocative work. I'm not going to ever want to not do that. But I think that we might just need to share stories where we just celebrate being together for a story. So I think I'm really excited actually about comedies and musicals and storytelling shows about living and working with guide dogs, which is one of the shows that I've worked on here that I plan to bring to Lunchbox at some point, but just shows that make you feel good about being alive with the other people in the room. So I'm really excited and talking to the board and to the general manager, Patty, about how to approach the next steps. It's a really cool opportunity to kind of be in a stage of, we have to rebuild from the pandemic anyway, and you have to rebuild when new artistic leadership is coming in. And like, maybe it's a good time to rebuild for Lunchbox, because it's a good time to really revisit their strategic plan and why Lunchbox exists and what it can offer now. So it's going to be a lot. It's a big challenge to take on, but I'm really excited. Already in the week since it was announced publicly, I have had so many Calgary acquaintances or friends or people I don't know at all reach out to me to welcome me to the community, to offer, do you ever want to talk about, like set up a call, whatever. This has been my experience every time I've spent time in Calgary. When I did the One Yellow Rabbit Lab, when I directed for Storybook Theatre a couple of years ago, it's just an incredibly welcoming community. If I need to leave Ottawa, which is a bit heartbreaking because I do love it here, I feel very lucky to be able to be going to Calgary.
And I would love to hear from you and then share with people, how was that journey for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's been a journey, and I think it's been a journey for everyone for sure. And I was so grateful to you and Rebecca and Danielle for being with me on the journey to help me sort of figure out what we could be doing. Um, I guess, yeah, thing, the first step was canceling the public things. You know, we had public things planned for April and May, and in March we thought maybe we could still do them for a few weeks, but then it became pretty evident pretty fast that we couldn't. It became my focus to check in with each of the artists to find out what could serve them. I didn't want to just fully cancel things or postpone until who knows when. I wanted to see, but I also didn't want to force people to do something online if that didn't feel right for them. So my first priority was to find out from the artists what would serve you and your project now, because really, especially with the addition of the workshop series, but for the last few years, that's really been my focus for tactics as well. It's not just how do we get indie artists to do bigger shows, which is kind of the first impetus, but actually how do we just support the indie community to do whatever's next for them. And so with this shift, I wanted to see, okay, if we're not doing a main stage, if we're not doing an in-person workshop, what would work for you? And so some of the playwrights were like, well, a Zoom workshop would be great. I just need to hear the words spoken by actors. I need to have chances to rewrite. I need to then hear the words spoken by actors again. And some of them were like, no, I really wanted to be in the physical space. I really needed to, that's where my play is at. The script is ready. It's as ready as it can be, but I need to physically put the thing on its feet. But because we weren't renting a venue, because we weren't paying a venue technician, because we weren't doing a print brochure, because we weren't doing all these things that are associated with regular show expenses, we actually had a whole bunch more money that we could use on artist fees. So then we put out another call for proposals and for things that were specifically for an online Zoom workshop series. And so the proposals we received for that were from artists that all knew that this was going to be the format. So it required a pivot for them in their own heads, but then by the time they came to us with the project, they knew this is where it would be. And then we continued to evolve our thinking, and instead of just saying, well, every workshop gets this amount of money and you figure it out how many artists you can have for that amount of money, or we can have 6 artists and they each get paid this amount, which is an industry standard for a week. We realized some of the projects didn't need all the artists for 25 hours worth of workshops. Some of them needed more time, just playwright and dramaturg, and then actors for a day. And some of them really needed actors for a week. And so we were able to figure out our budget. How can we support them? So working that way, it created a pretty crazy logic puzzle of figuring out how much budget we had available for each project. And I felt really bad because it took me a while to get back to some of the artists because I was still moving things around. And okay, if we do this way, then that gives us just this much more money and we can do one more project. So yay, we can go to the next one on our list. But by the end, we were able to do 10 online workshops and employ about 75 artists in them. And again, everybody was paid some kind of industry standard. It depended on what they were doing, how that fit. If it was a playwright working for a longer time, then it was more of like an honorarium, but still came, approved by the kind of honoraria that the Playwrights Guild of Canada recommends. But if it was actors for a specific number of hours, then they were paid like it was a job.
And it's such a big challenge because our industry really requires a huge pre-planning.
Yeah, it was, the timing of it was like actually really lucky for us in some ways, because yes, everything takes so many months to plan, and we were about to launch publicly our information for our season. Like we hadn't launched it, so we hadn't already invested in printing all of our brochures, for example. That would have just been a sunk cost if it had. But we were just about to. So we had all these artists, we had all this information we'd gathered, we'd started to write press releases, we'd started to create all these things. We have our wonderful graphic designer had made all these graphics for us, but we hadn't actually taken the very next step, which would have lost us a bunch of money potentially, and also made it just that much harder to backpedal. So it was like just when we had everything together, oh wait, you have to do it differently now. So we actually got kind of lucky. And again, as a smaller organization, we were able to take advantage of our small, nimble size.
What do you think it's coming next to Ottawa, and what do you think it should come next if it's not the same thing?
In the 12 years that I've been in Ottawa, things have definitely changed. I feel like when I got here, I could see, well, when I got here, I started the MFA, so I had to just figure out that first. But once I was able to look around outside of Ottawa a little bit and see what was here, I could see so much potential in this community, but I didn't see a specific sort of career path for myself and really clear opportunities for myself, and how to fit in it. I just saw that there was a lot of cool artists and there was some neat stuff happening. In the last 12 years, I have been lucky to be involved with a lot of cool things and also not be involved with a lot more cool things and see them coming up. I've gotten to do a lot of shows at the Gladstone. I've been on the subdivision planning committee and gotten to do subdivision a few times. But I've also seen Fresh Meat evolving and growing, and now this year the Uproar Festival and Undercurrents has just like grown and grown and grown and grown, and I just love looking around and seeing all these different opportunities for indie artists to be able to keep creating and keep growing and keep thriving. And so I'm really excited. I don't know what's next, certainly. But I see just as much potential as I always did, but now I see much more clear opportunities, and I see different kinds of community leaders stepping up and creating opportunities and making room for other artists. And so what should happen, I think, is that should continue, and it should just happen even more. I want to see I want to see, I love the work that Jackie and Jamal are doing at Origin Studios. I want to see that their work more involved in the theater scene as well. I want to see more cross-pollination in general between different art scenes, which there's like a really thriving poetry community here. There's amazing work in dance. Again, the Dark Horse Dance series and different things like that. There's sort of analogs from similar things that are happening in theater are also happening in other disciplines. There's some amazing musicians. So I would love to see more cross-pollination of different arts coming together. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens next. I need to go at this stage of my career. And that's sad and exciting at the same time. But I really want to see Ottawa be a place where people don't have to leave to go to the next step in their careers. He's so sleepy. He's like, why did you wake me up? Look at the camera. Oh, sleepy puppy. Okay, hold on. This is hilarious. He's now like just shifted over on it. He's just like such a sleepy, floppy puppy.
That's out.
He's just like so asleep. So talk to you. And I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Be okay.
Bye. Be okay.